Okay, this short clip is all about how we can use green design to design our products better for the environment and better overall. Let's have a look. So these are the key things we should think about. First, when we've got a product, we think, does it need to exist? So before we make it, we need to do some market research. So the way we do this market research, there's a whole host of things. We can do things like literature research, expert appraisal, user trial. So what's out there at the moment, okay? Then we can do questionnaires, interviews, and then we can do this sort of perceptual mapping and environmental scanning. So what is out there? Where would it be used? Does it fit into life? Okay, so we can do those things to discover, do we need the product? And if we do that and we decide, yes, there is a need for this product, we can then move ahead. And we can look at this whole usability of it. If we've got a product, how useful is it going to be? Okay, what's the effectiveness? Is it easy to learn? Okay, and what will people's attitudes to it to be? And how efficient will it be? So these are things we need to consider, the usability of the product whilst we're doing our designing. And then, so we know we need to make a product, we need to now think about the manufacture of it. So these are things to consider. Having a number of components we need. So the fewer the components, the easier it will be to recycle, the easier it will be to make. Okay? And then for using standard components, that's even better. So this is as simple as perhaps using standard batteries. So using AA batteries rather than having to use customizable batteries. Using standard size screws, standard size bolts, standard tubes. The less we have to make separately, the better it is, because then the machine's already available, the equipment's available, and we can just use what's there. And if we can, use components that have got more than one function. Okay, so is it a case that a screw is also going to be a fixing? Okay, going to be like a magnetic fixing? Could it be fix two things together? Or is it that the screen is also half the case? If we can make a component have more than one use, that's better. And when we design something, make it so the parts can be made. So we design it so we can make it. There's lots of exciting stuff out there, but if we can't make it easily, it's going to add to the cost, both environmentally and economically. So we try to make things that are easier for us to make. And every time you touch something, it adds to the cost of the product. Okay, it also adds to the environmental cost. So financial and environmental costs the more we touch it. So we try to make things as simple as possible that need as little handling as possible. And if we can use standard sub-assembly, so things that are already happening. So can we use this system that we've already got in place to make our products? And if we like going something earlier about using standard components, can we use off-the-shelf components? So if you're making something, is it possible you can use the Wi-Fi system somewhere else and you can just attach it? Or can you use the Bluetooth or the volume controllers somewhere else and just add that into your product? Okay, the less you design, the less you individually need to make, the better it will be for the environment. Now, when we know we're making it and we've chosen our things, we've got some strategies to choose. There's this one strategy called just in case. Now what this does, it's all about getting a stack of components ready to go. Okay, so we're going to make something and we get a whole stack of components ready, all these parts ready in a warehouse somewhere. So there we go, we've got them ready, we're not sure what demand is, and we obviously need lots of storage space. And if we need lots of storage space, there's a high capital investment here to buy the parts and store them. And then we can make them when we need to, because we've got all the components. Doesn't matter about anyone else. We've brought them, we've made them, we're ready to go. Oh, we need to assemble something, we can just do that nice and easily. Okay. However, what if the market changes? What if suddenly nobody wants our products? Okay, what can we then do? We then need to think about something else. Okay, so we've got lots of components which have got to be used for something else, or we've got lots of wasted products. So we need to think again, a different approach. Right, this is a different approach, just in time. Now, just in time is a really good strategy. It's got its ups and downs though. Well, the advantage of this one is there's no stock of components. So you have very few spare components. We're only going to get the components we need. Okay, So we don't really have a stock, we order as we need it. So there's a limited buffer. So if we have a problem with a supply, we then have an issue, okay, because we're relying on only ordering what we need and only using as we need it. Companies don't need storage, so that's clearly better and cheaper, okay, which makes our life a little bit better. And companies will only order what we require. Now, the downside of this is that perhaps you don't have as much, if thinking from a large commercial point of view, you perhaps don't have the same buying power because you're only buying it as and when you need it, which obviously is different. But it does mean you don't have to have lots of storage. So there's, pluses and minuses. And a supply problem, that can be an issue. With the whole COVID-19 thing, products were slowing down, weren't coming here as quickly from other countries, and that could create problems. But we haven't got any waste of products, so we only made what we need. Okay, so if no one orders them, we don't make them. Right. So going back to this environmental thing, who actually cares? Most things we can split up environmental campaigners into these kind of 5 broad categories. Eco champions, okay. These are groups that sort of champion environmental issues, okay, that they work within organisations. And then we have eco fans. These are people who enthusiastically adopt these things, okay, and enthusiastically go for it. And eco labelling, this has a big effect on things. People often want to buy things if it's environmentally friendly, so eco labelling is important. But we also have ecophobes. Now these are people who just don't believe it. They don't want to hear this talk about environmentally friendly things, and they're not in favour of it. These are people who doubt it. They don't necessarily believe there's an environmental issue. They perhaps don't believe in global warming. They don't believe that we need to make such a big issue, and that really we ought to mould the world, continue to mould the world to fit people, and come what may. And then you have eco warriors, and these are people who demonstrate on environmental issues. Okay, so these eco warriors think very much. People might go and campaign for stuff, demonstrate in London or in capitals. Okay, they're eco warriors. Right. So you've got a product, you've made it. It's backed by your environmentalists, and we know we're going to go with this. When it's been, but we've got to think about end of its life. So what happens next? We've got to think about take back. So what is take back? It's a primary channel of waste collection. So this is where you collect something and you take it back to where it came from. Okay, it's really good. It's particularly good for like electronic waste. Okay, it goes back to the manufacturers and they perhaps can use parts of it again. So when you get products that are at the end of their life, we can then take them back and they can be used, and that's important. Reduces landfill. It's very much aimed at environmental businesses, okay, to be better, reduce the cost of the models, the business model, but because maybe you can then reuse these components in something else. Maybe you can reuse this material. So it's definitely not just for environmental, it actually does reduce the cost for businesses. Some things, like batteries, there's actually regulations about what has to happen with them, how they can be disposed of. Sometimes it's just cheaper to have a take back thing. So think computers, you can't just put them in landfill, they've got to be disposed of properly, so a take back scheme perhaps helps. Sometimes, they were saying, because we're reducing landfill, we're reducing that cost of landfill sites, we're reducing the disposal cost of a product. Some companies have to do it, other companies just do it voluntarily. Okay, so there's two kind of things. Some want to do it because it looks nice and sounds nice and makes them, gives them green credentials, and some people have to do it. Now, what is this? The influence of this take back on legislation. So what does it do? This means people have to start designing stuff differently. They have to start thinking, designing products for disassembly. So if you're going to take it back, can you take it to pieces? They perhaps use temporary joining fixtures so you can get them apart, so you heat it and come apart. It's a good thing. They will use less parts. Let's make it easier to separate. Let's choose materials which can be recycled or reused. So these are all things that matter if it's going back to the manufacturer. And then maybe We use less parts. Okay, do we use less materials just to reduce this waste? This is key. And we're designing products that last longer. So maybe if they last longer, and it's less of a burden to take them back. We might, with a take back, can we use standard modules? So sometimes, if you take back a product and you could reuse a whole section of it, that would be even better. Okay, so that is using modules, standard modules. That's a good way of doing it. Companies encourage people to take things back sometimes, giving incentives to users, maybe money off your next purchase. Okay, maybe some vouchers, some discount codes, some access to new equipment. So often there's an incentive to bring it back. Okay, so in summary, green design, what do? We only design what's really needed. And you make products that are recycled or reused or repaired. That's it. That's really good for green design, isn't it? We know that. Use as little energy as possible. So for manufacturing, use, transport, disposal, whatever, use as little energy as possible. Take back scheme. It's a good idea. We can use it. It's a positive. Okay, and don't make more than you need. So that's the whole just-in-time thing. If you don't need it, don't make it. Okay, because then it just ends up getting wasted. And we've got to think about how we dispose of products.